Hey, it's your friend and host, Courtney Turek, and welcome to Bold Moves, Confident Choices, the podcast where we own our path, make fearless decisions, and get real about what it takes to turn bold ideas into reality. Today's guest is my friend, Christopher Bylone. He is more than a strategist. He's a storyteller with conviction, building spaces where equity, belonging, and impact aren't buzzwords, but a way of life. After leaving Krispy Kreme, he chose purpose over predictability and created Innovation Unbiased to redefine what true belonging looks like. His podcast, I Know I Belong When, carries that mission forward, honoring names as legacies, treating belonging as a daily practice, and reminding us that leadership must be both data-driven and heart-led. His belonging formula is more than math. It's a mindset, a mirror, and a megaphone for change. So without further ado, I am so excited to introduce you to Christopher. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, Courtney.
How are you today?
I'm fabulous. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm having a really good day too. I can't complain. I'm actually more excited that I'm talking to you and I get to learn more about my friend.
Wonderful.
So before we jump into some big questions, can you just share a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So, Christopher Bylone, born and raised in South Jersey. So, I am a Jersey boy, born and bred on a farm, bachelor's degree in agriculture science from Rutgers. And some of those bold moves came from the family business closing down and having to find a new path in life. As you can see, for those who are viewing this and video, you can see that I'm surrounded by a bunch of photos. I have my sons on my left and my right of me. My best friend Angie is up in the corner. My mom is behind me and my cousin Paul. These are my happy places. And so being a dad, friend slash brother, a son, a cousin, that's really who makes me who I am. I'm currently based just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina now, but I'm a Northeastern guy. I'm missing the cold weather. I don't really like the weather in Charlotte, but I love the outdoors. I'm a hiker. If I'm not in the office, you're going to find me in the garden. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit more about me.
So, Christopher, I have to ask, you came from New Jersey. I mean, the
Yes.
weather in Charlotte is a lot better than the Northeast.
No.
Really?
Give me snow. Give me snow.
Oh.
I want cold. Like I was just up a couple weeks ago, I was up visiting my mom in Connecticut, and I got to sit and have a fire outside by the fire pit every night, and it was gorgeous. And so for me, I am a cold weather. I rather have a hoodie on. You can only take off so much clothing when you're hot. You can put more clothing on when you're cold. And so give me cold weather any day of the year and I'll take it. My happy place is like 75, no humidity, light breeze.
So, assumptions. This is a lesson learned, right? We say to never assume. And I initially assumed you wanted hotter weather, not colder weather.
No. When we moved here to take the job for Krispy Kreme, that was another bold move. I cried when we had to sell my snowblower.
Oh my goodness. It's very rare that I hear people say they want to move more towards the snow, but I agree with you. I love seasons. I love to actually put on layers and get really cozy. I'm not far from Charlotte. I'm in Asheville. It's a little cooler here, but it's not still what the weather
I have
you're
not been
looking
able
for.
to wear some of my favorite sweaters since I've lived here because it's not sweater weather ever.
Oh my goodness. Okay, enough about this. I want to get into the detail, into the real thick side of Christopher. So, could you please share with the audience what was the bold move or confident choice that took things for you to the next level, personally or professionally, Christopher?
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of bold moves in my life. Going back to when I was really young in high school, when I challenged my mom and said I will be taking certain classes in high school when her and my teachers did not think I had it in me. And I took the bold move and said, nope, I'm doing it. When I left higher education and was transferring into corporate America, I was in Connecticut and I took a chance of signing a 1-year lease to an apartment in Stamford, Connecticut for a temp job because I knew I needed to be down in the lower Fairfield, New York City metro market to be in the job market so that I could get a job because there were
Yeah.
hardly any jobs in Eastern Connecticut. My mom thought I was crazy, right? She was like, I don't know why you're doing this. This is a really big risk. And I was like, Mom, we are to the point where there is like, this is go big or go home, right? And then I think another bold move for me was when I left IFF and took the job at Krispy Kreme. We relocated the family from Connecticut to Charlotte, North Carolina area. And that was a big, bold move. My family had to come along for the ride because it was my job. And, they gave up their school. My now ex-husband gave up his career in Connecticut to move down here. And then 2 years later, Krispy Kreme needed to do a round of layoffs, and I was included in that. And I think for me, the bold move that came was I woke up the next morning and went, I'm not going back into a corporate seat. And so I took this opportunity, right? One would think, okay, you just got the news that you got laid off, but I believe in serendipity, right? I had already started thinking about taking the business and getting it going. The day that I got the news, I already had on the calendar for well over a month a meeting with a marketing consultant to build the brand for Innovation Unbiased. That meeting was scheduled for 5:30 that evening. I received the news at 8:45 that I no longer had a job at Krispy Kreme. I called my marketing consultant in about an hour or two later and said, hey, just want you to know the mindset that I'm going to be walking into this meeting with was just, laid off, but it is full steam, if not fuller steam ahead, because I want to make a go of this consulting company. And
Incredible.
yeah, and
Christopher, that the
so
fact that meeting was already scheduled on the same day that this all happened to you at Krispy Kreme.
yeah, I mean, I scheduled it for 5:30 in the afternoon because I was planning on doing this off the side of my desk, right, as the
Right.
side hustle, right? And actually, even a week before that, the Thursday before this happened on a Tuesday. The Thursday before, I was at a dinner, a gratitude dinner, and I met a woman who said, Christopher, your runway is too long. Because I said, my runway is going to be 2030. I want to work at Krispy Kreme until 2030, get Jacob graduated from high school, and then I'm going to go off and do this consulting thing, make sure I have enough money in the bank and feel very comfortable making this transition. And she said, your runway's too short. You got to be thinking like 2027, right? I texted her on the Tuesday and said, hey, Christy, so that runway is today. And so just everything happened for a reason. Courtney, I'm not going to lie. I think there's still a lot of fear in me about this, right? Because this is still all new.
Right.
However, I am confident that it's going to be successful. Why? Because I have a great network. Part of why I felt confident in making this bold move was because I am somebody who feeds my network constantly, right? Nourishing the network. Well, now I'm asking my network to feed me because I'm hungry. It is feeding me in spades, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes a little too much, and I have to go, can you hold that for a second?
I mean, Christopher, this is incredible. And to the audience out there, Christopher, when I met you, you were still at Krispy Kreme. And I remember you talking about this next phase in your life where you wanted to take yourself and how you have been really now pushed out of the nest to spread your
Yes.
wings and fly. It's
Yeah.
incredible. I do want to highlight the fact that fear is in all of us. And every time we step out of our comfort zone, the fear will always be there. It's back to making sure that fear isn't in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat with you. We kick it to that back seat and use it as fuel to keep us going. Because what you're doing, Christopher, is amazing. And I would love for you to share more about what is this next chapter for you? What does it mean? What are you trying to accomplish? Because it's powerful.
Yeah. So I want everybody to know that they belong, right? When you define belonging, most organizations define belonging as when people feel that their authentic self is welcomed. I challenge people to say it needs to be belonging happens when people knows their bold, authentic self is welcome, valued, and loved.
No matter
And
what form you come in. Is that what
right,
you're saying?
right,
So we're
right.
not
No
putting
matter
on
what,
the authentic face. We're coming in as our raw, real self.
bold, authentic self. But that's not the focus of the definition. The
Hmm.
focus of the definition is on the word knows.
Hmm.
Because if you know that you belong, it's a fact. You can hold on to it, right? Even when I say it now, I get the chills, right? But if you were to come to me and say, hey, Christopher, I really don't feel I belong here. I could come to you with the laundry list of corporate talking points about why you do belong here. But if you came to me and said, Christopher, I don't know that I belong here. I'm going to go, Courtney, what's up? What's going on? What happened? And you're going to be able to pinpoint to factual things that, oh, somebody talked down to me in a meeting. Somebody took my idea. Somebody did this. Somebody did that, right? It was specific actions that made you feel that you don't know that you belong here. And so when it's a feeling, I can change that subjective thing, right? Because it's very subjective. But when you say it's it's objective, right? And so part of what I'm trying to do with Innovation Unbiased is very much taking that qualitative stuff and turn it into quantitative results, right? So how are we taking the things that feel kumbaya? How do you measure belonging, right?
Right.
Because most of the time it's a feeling. It's not a widget, right? It's
So
not a
how do we
widget.
measure this, Christopher?
One of the reasons why I came up with the belonging formula, right? That's why belonging is the outcome, right? And so when we think about, so the belonging formula is equals equity plus diversity multiplied by inclusion to the power of accessibility. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yes, please. I'm
Equity
not a
is
I'm not a math major.
me neither, but I like to have fun with math. So equity is about your policies and your practice, right?
Mhm.
Do you have a good code of conduct and human rights policy? And what is your parental leave policy? And how are you doing pay equity, etc., right? Diversity is literally talking about humans, right? Who is making up your organization and is it representative of the markets in which you serve? Then inclusion is about the leadership. What are the behaviors that individuals espouse to make sure that they are taking actions in an inclusive way, right? How are they checking their unconscious bias? How are they making sure that they are approaching things from an empathetic point of view? And
Mhm.
then where accessibility comes in is we want to make sure that people can actually access not just our physical buildings, but our websites, can access our products, right? It's not just about the employees, but it's about the people who interact with your business, right? I'll share this story, an accessibility story of a past company I worked for. It was in New York City. And our headquarters was on two different foundations. If people know New York City at all, it is a hilly place. It's not flat, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you get in uptown, it's a hill. And so a lot of buildings are on separate foundations. And when you're inside the building, if you occupy multiple buildings, well, the floors aren't equal. And so our headquarters was divided between 531 and 537. They were two different buildings. Well, to get from the reception area to the HR suite, because the reception was in 531 and an HR seat was in building 537, there were 4 stairs between the levels, right? And you had to either walk down the stairs. Now, that is everybody who isn't in a wheelchair or does not have mobility issues, it was fine for them. If you were in a wheelchair or had mobility issues, you had 2 options. One, get on the elevator at reception, go all the way down to the street, exit, travel up to 537, go into the elevator on 537, come back to floor 9 and enter the HR suite.
Wow.
Or use the service elevator that maintenance and catering used, however, that went between the half floors, right? That elevator needed to be operated from the outside. So you pushed a cart in, you shut a door, there was no light on the inside, and you operated it on the outside with a key.
Oh, wow.
So if you were in a wheelchair, you would need to go in there, be shut in, and pray that the person on the outside was still going to be nice and operate it for you. That was ADA compliant.
Wow. And that
Is
is
that
not
really inclusive?
accessibility.
No, that's
No.
not accessibility, right? That's not accessibility at all. Like, those are the type of things when we're talking about, do you feel that you would belong here, right? If you were a candidate for a job and this was the experience where you were told that the address you needed to go to was 531 for your interview because you needed to check in at reception, but then the recruiter was coming to get you and went, oh, whoa, you're in a wheelchair. We got to take you downstairs and then we got to bring you back up. That doesn't feel very welcoming.
It
So you're
doesn't
already
at
going to
all.
know I don't belong here.
Help us understand what's given you this passion behind the Innovation Unbiased.
What's given me this passion? Being a gay man who is a cancer survivor, I have grown up in a world that I just was always, even before I knew I was a gay man, just always focused on social justice, right? For
Mhm.
whatever reason, I was always looking out for the underserved. Going back to a story from when I was 7 or 8 years old, is really what probably ignited the passion in me as an individual. So, growing up on the farm, we would have to give our farm workers their paycheck on a Friday. And this was before direct deposit people. So, I'm kind of dating myself here, right? And on those Friday evenings, they would be making a dinner for them and the family that was visiting them, but also us, right? They would invite us in every week to break bread with them.
How
And I
special.
don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why, but this one particular day, I refused to go into the house. And I said, we eat over there. And I pointed to my grandparents' house. And I said, we don't eat here. And my grandfather grabbed me by the collar of my shirt and said, we will eat with them. You are not better than them. They are human just like you are. We get to eat over there because of the work they do for us. You are no better than them. Now, I don't know what happened or what made me take this action when I was 7 or 8. But what stuck with me is that I remembered that they were human beings. Now, I think there was probably this little bit of, we're the white landowners and they are the people of color and they work and that was just the community in which we in, right? Everybody who owned
Right.
land was white and everybody who worked for us was a person of color. There was definitely a separation, right? But what I take away from this, oh, so many years ago, was that everybody's human
Yeah.
and everybody deserves respect and dignity, no matter what your job is,
Right.
right? And doesn't matter how much money you have or how little money you have, you're human. And
Yeah.
so coming back to this is, how do we treat people as humans? We've lost that.
Yes, we
We've
have.
truly lost that. And so what I'm trying to do is bring humanity back. And how are we treating our workers, right? How are we treating the people? Every corporation loves to get up there and say that our most valuable asset is the employees that work for us. But then when you pull back the onion, do they really treat their workers that way? Or is it just a
Right.
good talking point?
Yeah.
Right. So, what I
Mhm.
want to do with Innovation Unbiased is actually get organizations to live up to the values in which they espouse. And if they don't have those stated values, I want to help them get there.
That is great, Christopher. And the story of your 7, 8-year-old self, and that's a pivotal moment. And
It
that you're
is.
really level setting with everyone that you were the person who was actually the unkind and being
I was.
biased in the moment. And you've
Yeah.
learned a lot
It
since then.
Yeah, and I don't know why. These were individuals that we would work alongside with, right? When I was a kid on the farm during the summers, I would be spreading crates. I mean, we would be picking vegetables right alongside of them, telling jokes and having
Right.
fun. I mean, they came to birthday parties. I went to their birthday parties. We swam in the pool together. I don't know why on that particular day, I just decided to be not a nice person. Right.
Right.
But I'm so thankful that my grandfather called me out, held me accountable for my behavior. Was I a racist person? Am I a racist person? No, I don't believe I am. right? But it was the
Yeah.
behavior that I espoused that was inappropriate. And so this is the other thing is that when I approach folks, I talk about behavior change. You may do something that may be racist, homophobic, sexist, name the ism, right? That took place. We're going to approach it from a place of grace, right? Hey,
Hmm.
you might not know what you did was this. Now that you're educated, right? This is the unconscious bias piece,
Yes.
right? It may be something that was unconscious to you.
Hmm.
Now, I don't want you to just be conscious about the bias you have. I want you to be purposeful in being an unbiased individual. Now, that does not mean your bias isn't there. It means how do you change your behavior so that your bias does not impact people in a negative way?
Christopher, thank you so much for sharing that story because it definitely allows us to all reflect on ourselves and where we've been, what we've said, what we've done. Looking back at your 18-year-old self, Christopher, what
Yes.
would you tell him today?
Come out. I say that jokingly, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
I came out when I was in my 20s, and I wish I would have come out in high school. I think I would have had a much better experience. Don't think the bullying would have not have been as much. I probably would not have had the thoughts of suicide that I did when I was a teenager because of the bullying that happened. Because I look back and go, wow, the gay guys who were out and proud, they didn't get picked on because they owned who they were. And they were like, nope, F you all. Right. And I was still like fighting it. Right. For whatever
Right.
reason. I don't know why. I mean, my mom's a lesbian. I have a gay uncle. I don't know why I was fighting it. I just was because the world told me I needed to be a straight man, right? That's all the signals. I mean, even have a
Right.
conversation with my mom. She'll tell you how she would talk about, oh, when you get married and you have a wife and you have kids. So all the signals were you needed to be straight, right? Now, I
Right.
was a dancer. People would say I brought this on myself. Jokingly, I say yes, right? I mean, I was a ballet, tap, modern dancer. I was in a company when any time that they needed to do some type of media for the dance studio, because I was literally the only guy in the dance studio whose face was on the front page of the paper, was me. So like it definitely, everybody knew that I was a dancer, and being a dancer wasn't manly, right? And I also had
Yeah.
cousins who were football players. Three male cousins, my three older male cousins, were all football players for the rival team to the town that I lived in. We share the same last name. Can't tell you the amount of times that the football coach wanted me to be on the team. And I was like, no. And now I have football boys and know more about football than I ever thought I would. What I would say to my 18-year-old self was just lean into your authentic self. Lean into that and be okay with it. Because when I found my authentic self in college, wow, the world really opened up and I was happier. And I got so many more opportunities because I was just being me. And I think that's where I'm at again. I've been on a health journey. I've lost 90 pounds. And so have a really good therapist who helped me really figure out who Christopher was again. And that's also part of the reason why I feel that I could make the bold decision to launch this company, because I know who I am. I'm being authentic to me. And if nobody else likes my authentic self, well, fine, I like who I am.
I love that right there. Right there. That is a moment, is knowing that we love ourselves, we're proud of ourselves. And, you mentioned when we know our authentic self, we really become unstoppable when we love ourselves. And listening to this conversation today, Christopher, you've taught me a lot of things, right? And it's about that innovation unbiased approach. You might still have bias, but the goal is to really be purposely unbiased and in the environment you're in, around people. Am I saying this right? See, I even need to work
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
right here.
Well, when I will say this is a journey for everyone, right? Because a
Yeah.
lot of people, they just talk about, challenge your unconscious bias. Well, so what is the opposite of unconscious? It's conscious. Okay, so if you're just conscious
Right.
about the bias you have, right? Well, that's not enough, right? Because how are
It's
you
not
changing the
enough.
behavior? How are you changing the behavior? I know we're running up on time. Quick story. This
Yeah.
is a great example of how unconscious bias and how to be purposeful. So back in college, I was driving through downtown New Brunswick, New Jersey, and at the time I was an EMT, and I was stopped at a stoplight, and a woman was crossing the crosswalk, and she fell in the middle of the crosswalk, and she was not getting
Oh,
up.
no.
And so I quickly ran out and, using my education at the time, assessed that she should not get up, right? We
Yeah.
needed an ambulance to come. Now,
Right.
I also knew that the light was going to change soon, and we were on a two-lane street. And if I left my
Right.
car there, it was going to block traffic that people could still get around us. But my car
Right.
sitting there would block traffic in downtown New Brunswick. That wasn't going to be good. So what did I do? I grabbed my keys. I quickly scanned the crowd and found this couple who were dressed to the nines, guys in a top hat, had a suit, woman in an evening gown. They were going to some party. And I ran up
Yeah.
to them and said, "Can you please move my car around the corner? I need to apply medical care to this woman until the ambulance gets here." Now, I made the assumption in it because unconscious bias about what happens in your unconscious brain, right? See a lion, move to the other side of the street. See a hot stove,
Yeah.
don't touch it, right?
Right.
My unconscious bias said, "You are dressed really nice. You must be good people. And I'm going
Uh-huh.
to trust you with my car." Now, I made a good decision because they did not steal my car, right? They just moved it around the corner and waited for me to hand off care of the woman to the ambulance, the EMTs that arrived on scene. But I could have made a really bad decision. They could
Yeah.
have been not
Right.
nice people and just took the keys to my car and took it away. When I talk about unconscious bias, it's about the behaviors you do, right? It's about understanding the biases you have and how do you act on them, right? So
Right.
the bias I have is I see, if you are dressed nice, you must be a good person, right? You must be
Yeah.
educated, you right? So how am I
Right.
challenging the bias to when somebody isn't dressed as nice as that, or in my whatever I consider to be nice dress? How am I making sure that I'm checking the assumption that I have so that I'm waiting for that individual to demonstrate to me no matter what they're wearing on the outside?
Yeah. What a great example again, just to help us all think and put this into perspective for ourselves. So, Christopher, this has been so insightful for me, and I know for so many others. And I believe I could continue to soak in more myself. I start to reflect on the company I'm at now, and you start to check the boxes to your point, and it makes me think, are we really doing the best we can? I think we all have room for improvement.
Do.
But I can't thank you enough for being here today and sharing your space. Where is the best place for people to find you?
So I would say I'm on LinkedIn. So Christopher Bylone, you'll find me there. If you go to my website, Innovation Unbiased, you can find me there too. Happy to have a conversation with anyone. That's probably the best place. If you are ever in Charlotte, I'm up for a coffee because I truly believe that the connection should not just be another number on my number of LinkedIn connections or how many people are in my phone. I want it to be a human connection. I want to understand who you are as an individual. So, I'm flying to Chicago in a couple days and I have a laundry list of people that I'm scheduled to meet because I want to make sure that those connections are in person, right? And how do we truly treat people as humans?
Well, Christopher, I am happy that I've been able to have a coffee chat. I've been able to break bread with you. I look forward to another day where we get to have that moment together. And again, thank you
Yes,
so much for being here today.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to my audience, please go be bold, be confident, and be you. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to Bold Moves, Confident Choices. Remember, the boldest moves come from trusting ourselves and taking action. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share with someone who needs a little extra boost to boldness. Until next time, be bold, be confident, be you. Thanks.